Great. Well, welcome everybody. This is Anthony Russamano, your coordinator for college and career with Futureology and your district-wide college and career planning resource. Again, my name is Anthony. My email is in the bottom right-hand corner, if you could see that there, ajrussamano@capousd.org. So again, welcome. This is just a new opportunity to find ways to engage families and students. And this parent Q&A is just your opportunity to ask questions about testing and test preparation in a stress-free environment. For those of you who might have to jump off early or you missed a couple things in your notes, I'm going to record this and then post it on our website at CUSD-Futureology.org/locker. That's under our resource locker, okay, and that's where we have old videos of anything we've done webinar based, okay? So again, thank you for joining us. I'm gonna take you through some slides and then again, open it up for questions and answers. That's what this session is about. It's not about me doing a presentation. So again, depending on how many questions you guys have, it'll be shorter or longer. For those of you who don't know who Futureology is, again, we're a free district-wide college and career planning resource for you. Again, it's free for all CUSD students. We offer one-on-one counseling sessions at the mall in the evenings, September through May. And then we also do group workshops, web-based things like you're having right now, and in person. We were just at Dana Hills this week. We'll be at Tesoro next week doing just workshops on different topics. So always be on the lookout for that. You can register, and for this event, I'm sure that's where you did, you can register for events here at CUSD-Futureology.org/appointments-events, okay? So again, this is just kind of some background. The other thing I don't want to forget is down here in the bottom over here left is our new social media. I put some posts up there, some Twitter posts, Instagram stuff about testing tips, college information, a whole bunch of things, any events we have. So please do follow us. There'll be a lot more coming that way. So if you have your phone and you want to just keep track of us, please do so on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram, okay? Few housekeeping items before we really get started, and as you guys come on in, I want to make sure that housekeeping wise, if you have a question tonight, there's a place called Q&A on your dashboard. So I think in your upper left-hand corner, if you click Q&A, I'll be able to answer questions and let myself know that I actually answered those. That's the best way to ask questions in there. There's also a chat function. If you want to make some comments, or if I ask if you can hear me okay, that's a great place to put those comments in the chat area. Okay, so those are the two areas where we're going to spend most of the time for you to ask questions. And then thirdly, there's a poll section where I might ask some questions of the audience, and then I'll throw up a poll. So if I do, please participate. I really encourage you to participate, not only answering the polls, which gives me some information about my audience, but also just asking questions, or if you didn't understand something, please let me know, okay? And then we do have some other events coming up for seniors, juniors, freshmen, sophomore, and then for everybody. So be on the lookout for those, okay? So welcome back to school. We're gonna get started in a few seconds. Everybody should be coming in. We're getting close to 50 people. We should have close to 100 eventually. So, so with that said, I'm gonna get started on some of the pointers that I wanna start with for you guys, okay? So, first thing is we're going to do a poll right off the bat. So here comes the first poll. So for those of you who are driving on the computer, if there's more than one of you at your computer, my first question is just basically, what grade is your child in? Now I know it's a parent Q&A, but I'm sure I have some students here, but just answer if you are representing a student or if you are the student yourself. So here comes my poll, and you'll see this, and then I'll be able to kind of report out that. So what grade is your child in? And just answer that question for me right off the bat. And don't mind me, I'm going to be drinking some water throughout the night just to clear my throat. So we got a mixture between freshmen, sophomore, and juniors right now. Great, no seniors. Good. Hopefully the seniors are all taken care of. They know what to do. So we have a good mixture. Most of you have answered that, so I'm going to end the polling and I'm going to share my results. So we have a mixed crowd tonight. Freshmen, sophomore, and juniors, excellent. I love it when freshmen are here and they're trying to get a head start, and my juniors are in the thick of things now, so they might be a little bit more stressed, and that's why I'm here tonight, to kind of alleviate some of that, or at least give you some direction. Okay, excellent. I'm going to add another poll in here. Okay, so this one's just about testing in general. There's 3 questions to it. So if you at least entertain my questions for me to give me some insight into my audience here. And I know for my freshmen, you probably haven't tested already, so that's great. I'll know where you are. Okay, so here we go. Here's my next set of polls. It's a 3-part. Yes, and if you can please, some of you just start answering, give me a better sense of my audience tonight and where I could take some of the questions. Okay. And those 3 questions are, for those who aren't participating, where are you with testing on the SAT or ACT? Maybe you haven't taken it, or you're planning it, maybe you're done. Or what is your plan? Okay, a lot of you look like you're either going to do it on your own or take a class with a teacher. And as with most cases, a lot of people want to improve quite a bit. And we'll talk about that. Okay, so we're really all over in terms of improvement, what type of preparation we're looking to get. Okay, I'm going to end the polling and I'm going to share my results here just so you guys can know. It is anonymous, so nobody's going to know who answered what. Zep family, what's quite a bit? In reference to what? I'm not sure what I exactly said. Sometimes I don't remember. Quite a bit, if you can re-ask it, quite a bit for what? In reference to score improvement? So please re-ask, Zep family. Okay, so I got a sense of my room and we're gonna get started, but before I do, I'm gonna kind of give you a did you know, and then kind of move on here. And first of all, did you know? And I do this just kind of set the stage for us tonight. Again, this is really going to be about Q&As for you, so what your questions are. And I did receive, and I appreciate it, thank you for those who submitted questions beforehand to make sure I answer your questions. Well, did you know, first of all 4 of your universities accept either the SAT or ACT. Not a lot of people know that. Back in my day, some schools had you take one or the other. It's not the case anymore. These test scores are also used for scholarships. A lot of people don't know that, so that's something to keep in mind. Some people naturally do better at one than another. Some people just fall in the middle on both, okay? You can take both tests, that's up to you, or just one of them. And I'll talk about what my recommendation is, and somebody actually asked that question, and we'll get to there. What should you do? And then these test scores, so you know, it just provides a quick way for schools to compare and evaluate applicants. Not only do you have GPA and the courses they take, other things that they have, but again, this is just a helpful way for these colleges because they get so many applications to compare students. And then, as I'm sure a lot of you know, it doesn't tell the whole story. Okay, there's more to a student than a test score. You need to understand that when you go through this process, because some of us get too hung up on this. It is one piece of the puzzle, and obviously you don't want to put a bad testing foot forward, but it's really important that you understand there's more to it. And if you get hung up just on this test, a lot of other things happen that you are hurting your chances, okay? So that's a did you know. I'm going to check the Q&A again. Wanting to improve quite a bit. Great question, Zep family. And I'll talk a little bit about that through the night. So I got a question. I mentioned, oh, there's a lot of you looking to improve quite a bit. Well, I'll talk a little bit about the scoring of the tests and then what's kind of a realistic test score. So we'll get into that. So I will definitely cover that. But to give you just a quick sense, for example, there were a lot of people who said, I want seven points plus improvement on the ACT and 300 plus points on the SAT. That's quite a bit. That's a lot of points. 2 points is a lot on the ACT. 100 points is a lot on the SAT. So that's quite a bit. Is hundreds of points, or 5, 6, 7. That's a lot, and typically unrealistic sometimes. It depends on where they're starting at and who the student is. But we'll talk a little bit more about it. But thank you for clarifying. I appreciate that. All right. So again, a little bit of background so you understand, again, setting the stage for you. And guys, this is you're only gonna get out as much as you put in terms of questions. Now, I do have some of those submitted questions, which we'll hit first, and then I'm gonna open it up to everybody. So if you're thinking of something and you haven't asked the question, maybe the question will be there, but make sure you ask it. So these are the test dates throughout the year between SAT and ACT. Something to note and understand is the SAT just opened an August test date, if you did not know. So that's really important and great because it's in the summer. And the ACT starting this July 2018, they're going to have a July test date. So they actually have given students some summer test dates, which has never happened before. So that's actually a great win for students and families, okay? So that's something to keep in mind. But you'll notice the SAT is offered quite a bit, and so is the ACT. So there's multiple times and opportunities to take the test throughout the year, but we'll talk about timelines in a little bit, okay? All right, so here's some of the submitted questions already. One person submitted a question and it wasn't fully done, it got cut off. So if you see your question in some sense over here and you had a second part to it, please ask it again. So I'm gonna walk you through some of these submitted questions, folks. And if there's something you didn't understand, please clarify in the Q&A, or if it triggers another question for you, please ask away, okay? Again, I'll cover as much or as little as you ask, okay? So I'm not gonna, well, I usually do ramble on, but I'll try not to. So with that said, one person submitted a question today, like, how do you know your kid is ready? Okay, great question. Unfortunately, there's a lot of factors that go into that. So I'll take you through kind of a sense of where you should be in this. First of all, my freshman, you're not ready. And you shouldn't take the SAT or ACT. All the freshmen in CUSD will be taking the PSAT on October 11th, on Wednesday in October. There's your first foray into testing. Go and take it. Don't worry about it. By the way, I'm hosting a PSAT orientation this week, another web-based program, where if you are taking it and you're a little shy about it or you not know what to expect, please attend. I'll kind of give you a framework to how to maybe approach the PSAT. I'm not going to teach you how to beat the SAT or get, hundreds of points higher or anything like that. It's just to kind of get you an understanding of where you should be. So my freshmen, you guys shouldn't be testing. And my sophomores, right now, if you're a sophomore, you shouldn't be testing for the SAT or ACT. So you're not going to be ready and you shouldn't be ready yet. How do you know your kid is ready? Well, one, you're going to be taking this PSAT. So my juniors, you've taken the PSAT last year. You have a score in hand. What you need to do to see if you're ready is you need to base it on some of your goals. And I'll talk about that along tonight because it's so important, because a lot of people go, well, I'm going to just go in and take it. Well, you kind of know if you have a PSAT score, what you would actually score. So your kid is ready when they're scoring on practice tests or they've gotten a PSAT score that fits the range they want to be in. That's how you know your kid is ready. Now, some kids are never going to score, by the way. The SAT is out of 1,600 points, okay? And the ACT is out of 36, okay? Now, not everybody can get a 36 or a 1,600 or even a top score in the 95th percentile. Some kids just aren't wired that way, which is okay. So how do you know your kid is ready? It will be based on the score that they're looking to get into the school they want to, okay? So, and maybe they're thinking of a school and they don't hit that score, but they might be ready because that's what their potential is for that test, and so be it. So um, you don't just go in and take it for real. So your kid is ready when you've done the research, you've looked at the scores, and you kind of see where you currently are. So use your PSAT score as a great baseline and see, does that make sense? Now, if they're doing some practice already and they're not hitting their goal score, they're not even close to it, then maybe they're not ready. Okay, but I have had students who've improved 250 points, and I think they're ready, but they don't think, because they still want to go for a perfect score. And sometimes they're never going to get there. And that happens sometimes. So again, you know your kid is ready when they've put in a good amount of time and effort and realistically gave it a good go of it, and they're scoring near the range that they need to score. That's how you know you're ready. Okay, so next question. And I'll ask Michael, answer your question in a second because it's going to tie into some of the submitted questions already. Okay. Which test should I take, SAT or ACT or both? What are the pros and cons? So somebody asked this question. And you're going to hear it, by the way, you're going to hear a lot of mixed messages out there. Okay. Now, before I worked for the school district, now understand, I'm an employee of the school district. There's no reason for me to tell you, well, bad advice or and have underlying motive over here. I want what's best for your kids, or if you're a student here, I want what's best for you. I've actually been teaching SAT or ACT for over 20 years. Before I worked for the school district, I was a tutor. I worked for a private company. I know the SAT or ACT like the back of my hand. I geek out on this stuff, by the way. You can take the SAT and the ACT. You're allowed to do it. You're eligible to do that, but I don't recommend it, okay? There are no pros to taking both. There are none. The cons are you waste a lot of time, money, and energy. Okay. There are no pros because colleges will accept either. Okay. It's universally accepted at all colleges. All you need to submit is the one you're better suited for or the one you score higher on. And people go, well, but Anthony, if I take both, then I could see which one I'm going to score higher on. You can figure all that stuff out before you actually go and pay money to really take the test. And that's what I'm trying to, for my freshman and sophomore here now, you have an opportunity. You have an opportunity to plan properly so you don't go down the path of many juniors and seniors where they take the SAT, they don't do as well. They try the ACT, they don't do so well. They go back to the SAT and they start flip-flopping. That's not a good way to approach testing. Okay, so there's a lot more cons than pros. To me, there are no pros of taking both. Okay, the ideal way to approach it is to take a baseline for both. So you guys are taking the PSAT on October 11th. There's your SAT baseline. Whatever you score in that is what you would score on an SAT. The next step would be take a practice ACT for free. You go to our website, Futureology, CUSD-Futureology.org. Under testing, you can actually grab a free ACT from ACT. We just take it from their website and give you a link. Take it, score it, and compare it. Now you know which one you're better suited for. And we'll talk a little bit more about that, okay? So I'll talk about comparing scores and how to determine that in a second. I want to get to some of the other questions. Okay, so again, should you take both? No. Should you take one or the other? Well, that's going to be determined by how you score on both of those and comparing those. Okay, that's when you should take the one you're better suited for. For some students, it's going to be negligible and you choose the one you prefer. Okay. All right. Somebody asked, what is the main difference between the SAT and ACT? Okay, great question. I'm going to share something else, okay? So I'm gonna open up another document. And let's share something else. So I'm gonna show it on my screen, guys, and I'm gonna share it. Somebody wants to know, what's the difference between SAT and ACT, okay? So I'm going to share my screen again. I'm going to show you this document, and I'm going to go through it briefly because you guys can look some of this up. So if you can see my screen now, it says the SAT versus the ACT. So here's some of the differences. I'm going to just touch on it because I don't want to go too in depth. The SAT has fewer geometry. The ACT, lots of geometry. Okay. The other thing, it's faster paced on the ACT. It used to be the SAT was faster paced. What I mean by that is the time per question is, you have more time on an SAT question than an ACT question. So there's more questions, fewer time limit, let's say, less time. So for example, and then by the way, the scoring, I'll give you a brief set. So 1 through 36 on the right in the pink is the ACT. You get 4 scores. You get a reading, English, math, science. The SAT, you get 200 to 800 in a reading, writing section, and in the math section. So the other difference you'll see is math is half the SAT. Math is only 1/4 of the ACT. So if you're not a math student and you struggle, then your ACT you might be better suited for the ACT just for math alone, because math is half your score on the SAT. Okay, and you can look all the stuff is public information. Here's time per question. If you notice, in the blue is the SAT. In reading, you have 75 seconds per question on the SAT. On the ACT, it's 53 seconds. Okay, now I'm not saying one is better than the other. The way the questions are asked are different as well. If you like geometry, you might like the ACT. Some people, there's a science section on the ACT, nothing like that on the SAT. There's some questions. So again, you need to kind of look at both, try both, and see from there. The best way to determine that, though, some people go, which one should I take? Well, I don't know you as a student. The best solution to figuring that out is take your PSAT, like you're going to do on October 11th. My juniors, you should have a score, and some of my sophomores, you shouldn't. I don't know if you would have some, unless some of your schools offered it as a freshman. You take a practice ACT. Here's the math again. For example, math on the ACT, it's only 60 minutes. There's 80 minutes of SAT math. There's more trigonometry on the ACT. So I can go through this, but again, I'm not going to do that. They both have grammar. There's a lot of similarities, though. So you guys know there's definitely a lot of similarities. So if we kind of go back to, I'll show you some of this. Where do I have it? Here we go, structure and format. There's no guessing penalty for both, so there's a similarity for that. There's, they both have algebra, arithmetic, geometry. They both have misplaced modifiers in grammar. They both have reading comprehension. So there's a bunch of differences. Some of the vocabulary is a little different, but for all in all, there's a lot of similarities. So if you're trying to figure out which one you should take, again, solution is try both of them and then see. But don't try them for real. Don't go in and take them and pay the money and take it on a Saturday. You can do that outside that time, okay? So great question. I'm gonna consider that answered. Somebody asked, you know, the timeline, the ideal time of the school year to take the test. Again, I'm gonna get back to that, Michael, because I wanna get back to my slides and some of the questions that were asked earlier. So as you can see, we're just floating around here. I'm going to go back here now. Okay, so let me get back to the submitted questions here. How important is to prepare for the SAT or ACT? Should I take classes? Okay, another great question. A lot of people know, should I do this? Should I do that? By the way, there's a lot of free stuff out there. Khan Academy, someone actually asked that in the Q&A. Do you recommend the Khan Academy SAT? Well, Khan Academy doesn't offer ACT online courses. Kaplan does for ACT. Do I recommend those? Sure, I recommend those. They're great practice, but I'm going to have caveats with that, okay? First of all, it's important, well, the relative importance of preparing for the SAT depends on a few things. One, which college you're applying to. So the first one, which college are you applying to? And two, whether we're talking about admissions or scholarships, that's important as well. because for admissions, you might need a certain score. For scholarships, you might need a different score as well. So that's really important. And the weight of your test score is going to vary from school to school. So depending on where you apply might depend how much time and energy you put into preparation. Now, if money isn't an object and you don't need financial aid, you're not looking for scholarships and everything, well, then maybe you don't need to do a class because your score is good enough to go to the school that you're looking to get into. So again, it's going to be different for everybody based on the schools they apply to, which, oh, my friend's doing it doesn't mean you need to do it. Or my friend's doing this type of course. That might not be the right one for you based on what you need or what your goal is, okay? Now, understand, virtually all colleges care more about your grades and your curriculum than your test scores, okay? And then even about 850 schools or more than that are test optional, meaning they don't even look at SAT or ACT scores. Most people don't even know that. Okay, so that's important as well. People go like, well, I want to apply to that school. If you're looking for a scholarship though, they still use those test scores for those 850 optional test schools as a way to give merit scholarships. So again, if you're still applying to those and you want a scholarship, you still might need to take the test or prepare for it. So again, depending on your goals, how important it is to prepare for it. Now, big mistakes that students make a lot of times are that they don't think about, oh, well, I want to go up 300 points. A lot of you said 300 points or 7+ points on the ACT. And then this is how you don't take a class and you buy a book and you look at it once or twice. That's not going to get you that kind of improvement that you want. So again, it's important, but it has to be based on your goals. If your goals are kind of, not that high in terms of the kind of improvement you want, you might not need to take a longer class or more intense class, okay? So hopefully that makes sense, all right? All right, I've got some questions coming in. Which document? I said it's not zoomed in. Let me try this. Let me try sharing it again. So if somebody's saying they're having trouble seeing my document, okay, let me know if that works. So I just reshared my document, okay? You also might have clicked on where my face is bigger than the document. That might be just a setting that you have on your screen, okay? Nicole asked, which prep courses do you recommend? I'm not going to spend time talking about specific prep courses. Again, Nicole, for how important it is to prepare, the courses I recommend should match your goals and your needs, okay? And what I mean by that is that if you want to improve 250 points, then I don't recommend some of the courses I've seen at some of your high schools, which are like the one-day courses. So Nicole, again, based on your goals, if you want to go, I got to get a 250-point improvement on my SAT. Well, that one-day course offered at your school is just not going to cut it. So I recommend that your goals match the courses or the type of prep you're going to do. For someone who wants 8 points improvement on the ACT, self-prep or buying a book typically will not cut it. I mean, not typically, usually don't, it doesn't cut it. So again, it has to match, okay? But I'm not going to talk about particular prep companies. I would probably say, you do some research on it, then come see one of my counselors for a one-on-one and we can talk a little bit more about that. That Alan asked for that web graphic you showed us. Can't find it with a basic Google search. Alan. For $5, I'll send. No, I'm kidding. Why don't you email me, or what I'll do actually is I will post it on our website when I post the recording. So you just go back to our website and look for it. Yeah, it's a pretty good graphic from some of my friends who work in the industry. I liked it. But again, that information you can get anywhere. Okay, it just has the timing on the test, the kind of questions. It's pretty basic, but yes, I can do that. Okay, I'm going to continue on with some of the questions. Great. Oh, the UC admission scores, Gerald. Yeah, I'm not going to show that till a little bit later. When I get to that question. Okay. So that's why you saw it very small, because I have it on my desktop. We're not there yet. Okay. How many times I can or should take the SAT or ACT? That was a great question somebody asked. And here's what I tell students. Well, you can take it a ton of times, but why would you want to? Again, you're giving more power to this test than it needs to be, okay? My recommendation is no more than 3 times, and that's for one test only. If you do this right, you should only take the SAT or the ACT, not both. So don't go, well, Anthony said 3 times, so I took the SAT 3 times and I took the ACT 3 times. No, that's not what I'm saying, okay? So if you do it right, and I'll talk a little bit about the timeline in a second, okay? All right, but you shouldn't take it more than 3 times, okay? So let's go to a timeline. And somebody's raising their hand. If you're raising your hand, please just put a question in the Q&A, or if you have a comment. Okay. All right, here we go, timeline-wise. Okay, so here's a timeline. So Michael asked this, when should you be taking your test, okay? So if for my sophomores, okay, I'm gonna walk you through real quickly. You're taking the PSAT in October, and you notice here, there's no SAT. You're not taking it in your sophomore year, okay? You might take some of these other tests based on where you want to go and other things. So it's only PSAT this year, but you should take a practice ACT by the end of your sophomore year. So by June, practice ACT. So my sophomores, this is where you are. So my freshmen, just a year ahead, fast forward a year ahead. In the summer, prep for your SAT or ACT. Once you have that practice ACT and you have a PSAT score, you kind of know. So I'm going to show you back here. Once you have that SAT or practice or the PSAT and an ACT, this is how you figure out what you should do. So for example, if you have a 25 on the ACT, you just scroll up here, I have a 25 the ACT, okay? But let's say I got a 1300 on the, or 1350 on the SAT. Look where my point is here. I'm in the blue. It favors the SAT. That's how you determine which test you should take. And by the way, this flyer for my friends at Compass, it's on our website. Okay, and you could find it on their website. This tells me I favor the SAT. Now, if you fall in the gray area, so let's say you got a 25 and a 1200, you're in this gray area. Now it's your judgment call. But as I said, there's no point taking both. Just take one. Which one did you like better? Which one do you prefer? So once you have a determination, sophomores, then go with a path. Now for my juniors, okay, so you're prepping in the summer, and now again, this is a typical timeline for students to get ahead of it. Now, if you haven't had Algebra 1 or Algebra 2, then maybe you're not prepping in the summer because you might need that class. So this is just a general timeline. If you're not applying to more selective or competitive schools, then maybe you don't follow that prep in the summer. But I like prep in the summer because you're not competing with your classes. You actually have time to prep for it. A lot of juniors, my juniors now who haven't taken it for real, you have to compete with your classes. And I said the most important thing for students are your grades anyway. And so now you're going to compete your grades with these test scores. And that's where people start losing sight of things. They start either overdoing their preparation for these tests, and then their grades slip. You know, and so that's where you kind of gets a little dicey in there. So you got to pick a time. So my juniors, if you haven't done anything yet, you have all these test dates. I recommend the fall, but you know, you could do spring, March. When are you going to have the most time to prepare for your goals? Now, some of you, if your PSAT score says 1250 and the school you want to go to says you need a 1200 or 1150, you're golden. Go in and take it. For those that need preparation, again, the more points you need to improve, the longer it might take you, okay? So that's kind of a timeline. My seniors, you're retaking it in the fall. But my rule of thumb, okay, is to plan for one. That means you do everything right. So my freshman and sophomore, plan for one and be done with it, okay? Plan for one. But you definitely want to leave time for a second and a third, okay? But plan for one and be done with it. Or why I would say prep for one. So make sure you prep whatever you do, book or whatever. I saw a lot of people plan for two, You know, leave time for 3, meaning that if you start, my sophomores, if you start around that time frame, you do that. My juniors, you still have time, okay? So Michael, hopefully that gives you an ideal timeline is to prep in the summer and take the August SAT or the September ACT. Ideally, if you're a junior now, it's a matter of when you're going to find the most time to hit your goal. And if you're in your goal, then go in and take it now, okay? And that's a general rule of thumb, okay? All right, so that's timelines. Let's get back to some of the other questions. How much prep will I need? I want to improve 200 points. So I had a lot of people that want to improve quite a bit, okay? You can make big improvements. You can improve 200 points for sure. But it's going to depend on your effort or how much, you know, are you learning through this process. You can't just go do that in a week and learn something in a week and improve, hit that 200 points. Excuse me, comparatively on an ACT, you know, you're talking about, you know, 4 or 5 points or something like that. So that just usually doesn't happen, okay? Okay, another question. Yeah, if you guys can ask questions in the Q&A, it's a lot easier for me to make sure I answer those questions. But I got your question about your MIT kid. So I will get there. So I want to improve hundreds of points, 4 or 5 points on the test. Yes, you need a lot of prep. It's 2 to 3 months minimum probably for that type of improvement. And it's not one of those cram courses. It's not just buying a book. The more improvement you need, you're gonna need more time. For most students, another big mistake is it takes twice as long as you think it's gonna take. It's not gonna take 2 weekends to get that type of improvement. So if you want large score improvements, you need more time, okay? Somebody just asked a question about, should I retake the test? My son had a 34. No, he's done. Getting a 36, okay, now by the way, 34 is nearly perfect. He maybe missed a couple questions. A 36 is not going to help him get into MIT. 34, what do you have? A 34, 35, 36, you're all the same. It's all the other things that are going to matter at that point. That's another big mistake students make. Once they hit the score and they're in the range they need to be, they get obsessed over it. I'm going to keep going to get that 36. Stanford, MIT, Harvard, they reject those type of students. Perfect scores all the time. It's because they're lacking in other areas. So it's not just a numbers game. You hit the 34, he's done. Okay, hopefully that's clear. That's a clear one. Okay. All right. Great questions. Keep them coming. What is the best ACT score for UC requirement to be able to get into a good in state college? Somebody asked this question. So, and there's a couple questions about scores. So I'm going to take you through. Somebody was like, what score do you need for if you're applying for Ivy League schools? So I'm going to take all that together and we're going to talk about scores in relations to schools. Okay. So we'll do that. All right. So let's talk something. All right, so somebody asked like, well, here's some Cal State schools, and I'm just throwing this up there to kind of give you a sense of where we are with that. So these are some Cal State schools. So a state school, okay, now look, there's GPAs, there's SAT and ACT scores. So this gives you a sense of a Cal State school. Now, again, this is the middle of the range, so there's kids that get in with higher than this, there's kids that get in with lower than this, okay? You need to understand that there's other factors that are going into things, but sometimes a big mistake students make is going, oh, well, I have a 3.5 and I have a 22 on the ACT, and I'm going to apply to Cal Poly slow. And I'm going to apply to Harvard or Stanford, and I'm going to apply to UCLA and everything. Those aren't good schools for where you're at with your grades and your admission criteria. You have to be realistic in this process. So now somebody asked a question about Ivy League schools. What scores do you need? I'll tell you, but before I do, I need to make sure that you guys understand that a good balanced college list is really important. Too many students I see in this process, they come to me with a list that makes no sense for what grades and test scores and stuff they have. It's great to have a school that you're dreaming for, But to have all of them in that range, it just doesn't work. It's just not going to work that way. There's a lot of great schools out there outside of this list here, or outside the schools that are Ivy Leagues and the UCs and the Cal States that would be great matches for you, that would have the programs you want. So you have to do some work on finding a good college list. And we at Futurology, we run a lot of workshops and programs and run events and things at your school as well that can help you find other schools besides that. We have the college fair coming up Monday, October 30th. Check some of all those schools. We're going to have over 150 schools there. There's a lot of schools you haven't heard of, and you know what? You might get some scholarships there, or you can get into some of those schools. So again, this is a Cal State school. So again, if you're looking to get into a Cal State school, if you have a good mid 3.5 GPA and a mid 24, 25 test score, something like that, you're going to be okay with a Cal State school. UC schools are a little bit higher in terms of GPA and test scores. So this just gives you an idea. So, you know, at the UCLAs of the world and Berkeley's, you're talking 30 plus. At the Merceds and Riversides of the world, well, you can have above average ACT or SAT. Oh, by the way, these SAT scores are wrong. So I'm going to actually pull that document that gentleman was looking for. So I'm going to get out of this here and show you that so you guys can get a sense of that document. So let me do that. I'm going to show you some samples of some UC, what the UC rates. These were for freshman applicants last year. So I'm going to pull that document up so you can see that. Here we go. Share my screen again. By the way, I love doing this stuff on the web because everything's at my fingertips. I pull up these documents and you guys can see everything that I see here. Okay, so here it is. Somebody asked for this before. I'll put this on our website too. Here's a quick glance. This is from UC freshman application data. So again, Berkeley, here I am. I'll do my annotation dot here so you can kind of see when I'm talking about something. Here's Berkeley, here's my hand. You'll notice ACTs in mid 30s here. SAT scores are high. Again, this is middle 25 to 75%, okay? You want to be in that range if you want it to be a school that you should be applying to. If you're above that range, and now I'm just not talking just UCs. If you're above that range, that's where you actually get scholarships at those schools. You know, that's another good rule of thumb. Apply to schools where you're going to be in the top 10% of those applicants. Even for my guy who had the 34, mom asked that question, you're not going to be in the top 10%. It is. They're all there in that range. But if you apply to some other schools outside the Ivies, you're going to get a lot of money. Okay. So we look at Berkeley, one of the more competitive schools, over 0.0, 1,400 test scores. And then we go down to maybe Riverside, where you're talking about, 3.6, 3.7, 3.8, 22, 23, 24. Okay, more that's more me. Okay, I could potentially get in. It also gives you the number of people getting in, application-wise, all that stuff, applying. So you'll notice that the UC is very competitive. UC San Diego right here, Santa Barbara, Santa Cruz. So again, just because you can click a box on the UC application and check all these schools off doesn't mean you should. You should look at your chances of getting in as well. UC Berkeley and UCLA are usually at the top, Merced and Riverside at the bottom in terms of grades and test scores, okay? So that'll give you a sense of that, okay? For Ivy Leagues, okay, for test scores, you're talking about, 30 plus, 1,400 plus, okay? So somebody's asking that. Where do we go with that for Ivy League schools? What do you need if you're applying to Ivy League schools? Doesn't mean you need that. You can get in with below that. It also depends on what else are you offering them, okay? There are special interest groups. Maybe you're an athlete. Maybe you play the violin. That might help you. So it's not just your test score, but to be safe, you want to be in that range if all other things are equal. You don't have anything else in that stuff. It's best if you were in that 30 plus 1,400 range for the Ivy Leagues. Okay, so that answers that question. But great questions. Gerald, you're wondering, we're confused. Early session you mentioned, yeah, freshmen should take, well, freshmen are taking the PSAT, Gerald. I'm looking at all the questions, and so I'm going to go back and forth now. I want to make sure I clear up some confusion. Freshmen should take the PSAT, yes. My last slide shows sophomore year. Yeah, I didn't list freshman year. I didn't have space on the slide. Freshmen will take the PSAT as freshmen. It's part of your school. Your school's going to give it to you. Well, it is just practice. So Gerald, I don't know if you understand. The PSAT is not the SAT. The PSAT is a practice SAT done at our school October 11th. All my freshmen, sophomores, juniors will do it. It has no bearing. Colleges won't see that score. Only you're going to see that score. Okay? It is practice. So you asked, is it okay to take it just for practice? That's what you're doing, actually. So you're taking that. So I just didn't have the freshman slide. Hopefully that clears that up. All right. So anonymous attending me. Where do you find this score GPA requirements for colleges? Great question. Go to the college's website. You can do a couple things. One, you can list a college, for example, Stanford Common Data Set in Google, and it'll pop up. You can go to the school sites and look for it under requirements sometimes, but what they require, maybe they'll give you some of those averages there. If you all have access to what we call as Naviance, this is not a Naviance session, but as a district student, you have access to Naviance. If you do a search in Naviance, you can find some requirements or some score data, as well as Big Future College, where there's so many sites out there that have that Parchment. So you can look for that stuff. It's out there. If you come to any of our sessions, we give you those resources. Take one of our Finding Your Best Fit College on our website, and you'll be able to look that up. They have it under those college information data points. You'll be able to find that. So I'd like to say that I'm special and I have that and only I have that, but that's not true. Okay. All right, great. Keep coming the questions. Just to clarify, will the schools be giving the PSATs to sophomores, or was the school provided PSAT just for freshmen? No, the PSAT again is for sophomores, juniors, and freshmen. They ran out of tests last year, so it wasn't a valuable reference score. Oh, I didn't know if they ran out of tests. Interesting, but they're supposed to have one for freshmen, sophomores, and juniors this year, October 11th. So you'll get them as sophomores, and you'll get them as juniors and freshmen. Everybody take it. It's a practice test. All right. Okay. Somebody's asking about role of GPAs and AP courses and stuff like that. I'm really focused on the tests, SAT and ACT, in this session. So those other questions you have, those will be at different sessions and times, and we'll do stuff like that. So I know some people are asking about Ivy Leagues, and you want to talk about your situation, schedule a one-on-one appointment, go to our college fair sessions. At the college fair, we're gonna do something on very selective college admissions and Ivy Leagues, go to those. There's gonna be other opportunities. I'm mainly focusing on SAT and ACT for this particular session and prepping for those. So I'm not gonna talk about roles of all the other things because that wasn't the topic of this, okay? So if you have additional questions on that, schedule an appointment or attend any of our other events that we do, and you can talk to someone about that. But I don't want to take up all that time on there. So, okay. What is the best thing for a freshman to do if they won't test for 2 years? Michael and everybody here is get good grades. That's the best thing for you to do. And take the PSAT and then forget it. Do well in school. Take the PSAT as a sophomore and do well in school. There's nothing you need to do now. Okay. All right. I'm going to get back to my slides and some of the other questions that I had submitted. Okay. Let's go. I'm going to. All right. Okay, bear with me, and here we go. All right, so some more questions. Guys, these are great. I love it. Love that. All right. Okay, what's a realistic score improvement? Great question. It's It's going to range. It really depends on where you're starting. What's your baseline score? So if somebody came to me and they go, Anthony, I have a 20 ACT, which is roughly average, and they're looking to get a 34, that's not really realistic. Not that it couldn't happen. You rarely ever see that. And it's going to take a lot more than you think. So realistic score improvements on an ACT usually range from 1 to maybe 4 points. 5 and 6 are kind of more rare, and then after that it's really difficult to do. 4, 5, and 6, it's going to take all summer, spending 20 hours a week. It's really, if even at all, it really depends on the student and what their strengths and weaknesses are. For the SAT, if you have 1,000, 1050 or something, roughly an average score, getting to 1450 is going to be really difficult. So again, realistic score improvement, it's a couple hundred points on the SAT. If you put in the time and energy, it's 2 to 4 points on an ACT. Doesn't mean you can't get more, but I've seen a lot of students get fewer than that type of points of improvement because they don't put the time that matches what they want. They say 300 points, but they don't put the time and energy into it to do that. So again, be careful with that. Can I wait to take the SAT or ACT until the spring of my junior year? Yes, you can. That's not a problem. I just want to make sure you have time in the spring or junior. A lot of people are really busy that time. And so whether you're an athlete or you take an AP test or anything, maybe it's not the best time to do it. So you can wait. You can take it my juniors here on the call, you can take it any time this year. But again, based on your improvement goals, and being realistic and how much time you have, you want to find the right pocket of time to be ready for that. Should I take the SAT or ACT essay? I say yes, because you don't know where you're going to end up applying to. So I would recommend you do that. You just take a little bit longer on the test day. Unless you know all the schools you're applying to, they don't require it. Then do that. But a lot of kids, they don't know until they actually start applying senior year which schools they actually end up choosing. Okay. Do colleges think your scores are a good indication of how you'll do in college? Some don't necessarily, some do. I mean, some put more weight into it than others, but a lot of them, they need it as a way to evaluate students from maybe cross coasts, or they get so many applications. So that's really, each school is going to be different on that. But understand, guys, it's not a great indication of how well you do in your college. Usually your grades and your GPA, the classes you take now, are a better indicator of that, not this test score. Okay. All right, should I wait until November or May? I heard it was easier than October or March. That's an urban myth. So a lot of people, well, I'll take it here when I know my friends are taking it there and they're really smart, so I'll wait. That doesn't always go over so well because it doesn't matter when you take it. Again, the key is when will you have the most time to be ready for it? And ready is a relative term based on what you need to do to be ready for the goal score that you want, okay? Okay, do I recommend Khan Academy, SAT, ACT online courses? You know what, they're good. It's, some of that stuff is free. Some of the stuff they teach and how they teach it, I don't always totally agree with it. But again, it's still good practice. You can take practice length, full-length tests. It's good stuff in that sense, but it really depends on your goals. If you're telling me you want 350-point improvement, Khan Academy, I don't think alone will do it. If you're saying, well, I need 50 points to my goal, then yeah, that sounds like a good plan. But again, you need to put in the time and have time every week you're working on it and stagger practice tests and do all that. So again, there's a certain prep plan. So not only do I recommend it, but it really depends on how you implement it, if I would recommend it or not. If you go, well, I'm going to do about an hour a week over the next 4 weeks, then to me, that's useless. You're not doing anything, so. Does everyone have to take the SAT subject test? I haven't heard of these, okay. No, you don't. It's a couple people asked about the subject test. Those are subject-specific exams in different subject areas, whether they're one in history, physics, chemistry. Very selective schools require those. And not everybody has to take those. And also for my engineering majors, you might need to take a math and a science. So again, you need to check your school requirements And those are offered throughout the year as well. They're best taken in May or June when you finish the subject in school because they're very content-specific exams. But again, that really depends on your goals and where you're applying to schools. Not everyone has to take those. Most schools don't require them and you don't need those. UC schools, they don't require them. Cal States, you don't require them. The only UCs that require them is if you want to be an engineering major, then Berkeley's going to say, yeah, I want you to take a science and a math. So it really depends on your major and it depends on the schools you apply to. That's research on your part, okay? So that answers a few of you. Okay, what is the guidance for average hours on a weekly basis for prep? Great question. And again, I'm going to go back to what is your goal? So if you give me a goal, I can kind of give you a sense of that. It depended, for some I go, you don't have to do anything. You got the score you want. You want to go to Arizona State and you have a 1300? You don't need to do anything. So if you can kind of give me a sense of that, I'll give you a better answer, but it's going to depend on your goals and what you're trying to accomplish in that. But for the most part, general rule of thumb, if you just want to do the best you can and you want to, learn as much as you can about the test in a short amount of time, I say it's like a 2 to 3 month process. It's anywhere from 2 to 5 hours a week of prep stuff. And it could be 5 to 7. It depends on the range of improvement. But that's a good prep thing. But if you need 50 points, then you don't need that much. So it really depends. Or 1 point. Or if it's just one subject area that you're struggling with, you might not need as much. It also depends. Are you taking a class? Are you doing self-prep? Or are you doing you getting a tutor? And that also will depend. You have a private tutor, you don't maybe need as many hours because what you do one-on-one is more effective or takes less time than in a group of 30. So that also will make a difference. Another great question. Somebody asked, do some of the other test prep teach you strategies, not just review and practice test questions? Great question. And I really like this question because somebody brought up something, and I didn't do this here, but at the college fair, I'll do an SAT, ACT strategy session, and I'll show you some strategies. But doing well on these tests, guys, it's not just about the content or just doing more practice questions. Okay, now some companies, that's what they do. They just teach you some content or you just do practice questions. Some other companies teach you strategies, and strategies are things like, how long do you take per question? Which questions do I do first? Well, you can solve it 3 ways. One takes you less time, one's elimination style. So some companies do that. Some companies, again, just give you tests and make you take tests. You have to determine what's going to work for you and what you need the most. There are kids that have their own strategies and they're pretty good with them. There's some kids, their content really needs some work and they need to review that. Some need everything. So again, based on what your strengths and weaknesses are and what you're looking for, might be what you ask those prep companies. How do you teach your programs? What do you do? Well, hey, we teach some strategy. We also teach some content. We show you our methods. We make you take multiple practice tests. So again, there are companies out there that do that. There's our materials and online courses that do that. There's books that do that. There's some books that are just content based. Again, something like Khan Academy, they don't maybe teach you as many strategies as they do academic ways to maybe solve a problem. So maybe that's why if you needed more strategies, you might use something else in addition to Khan Academy. Even though I think it's great because it's free out there and you can do a lot of stuff with it. Okay, hopefully that answered your question. All right, guys, we are kind of wrapping up here. I'm going to keep it open for a little bit more, but I love the questions in here. They're really good. They're direct. They're helping you. So again, a few more questions and then we'll wrap it up and we'll end the session. Okay, if you're, somebody's asking, my situation about what are your chances based on diversity of getting into universities? Again, I need to know more than that. That's just not going to be as helpful as what are your credentials, your academic stuff, what you've done. You know, that's what matters. It's not just, oh, I'm diverse. That could be part of it. So it really depends on the whole package. So again, what I would encourage you is develop your candidacy through a lot of different avenues. It's not just this test score. It's also about the college you chooses and the chances of acceptance. It's about the things you do outside of the classroom. It's about the curiosity for learning. It's about the curriculum and the challenging curriculum you have if that's you're looking for a selective school. There's a whole bunch of things. It's not just one thing, and you can't just rely on diversity to help you. Schools want, it's not just diversity, they want different people and different experiences, so they do look at that. What I like to say is, people go, well, I should be well-rounded as a student. Well, it doesn't mean you should do 50 different things. Schools want a well-rounded student community, meaning they want different people from different experiences with different diversity and all that. That's what they're trying to do. So think about that. Okay. Yes, we have a Twitter account. It's CUSD-Futureology. So I'm going to go back to it. If you look here on right there on the front page in the bottom left, we do have a Twitter account. I post things on college tips, on testing tips. Yes, you need to sign up for the free. Check with your school about the PSAT on October 11th. They should be sending some information, or they might have already signed you up. I don't know if you need to do anything. I doubt you need to do anything. I think they're signing everybody up, but check with your school. For the most part, I think they've just signed everybody up. So the school does it for you, and then you just show up on that day. How important are extracurricular activities other than GPA and SAT test score? You know, that's Misra, that's a great question. I don't have time for that. It's something you're gonna have to ask at other Q&As and other things that we do, because I really want to finish up the SAT, ACT stuff. But really good question. Hold on to that for another session. And it's bigger than just answering the question, how important are they? Well, it depends on the school. It depends on what other things you have. It depends on what activities they are. So it's bigger than that. We probably will do a session just on activities like this. So be on the lookout for that, okay? Okay, couple more prepping pointers. As one size doesn't fit all. Do what works best for you. Put in the time. You put your time in the GPA, but sometimes people go, I'm just going to study over one weekend. If you put in a great amount of time and you have a really good GPA and you want to go to a competitive school, don't spend 5 hours doing test prep if you're trying to go to a school like that. So carefully think about that. And when you consider doing some preparation, again, what modality works the best for you? What's your learning style? What's your goal? What's the class size? Do you need a smaller class? What kind of materials, books? As somebody mentioned, does it cover strategy? How many practice tests? The teacher pedigree? There's so many things to think about. Don't just think they all have the same thing, or don't think the one-day cram course, it's cheap, it's $99. I'm going to get everything I need out of it. Probably not. It depends if it's your goal or not, okay? All right, somebody asked, we heard the East Coast schools favor ACT. My opinion is whichever test you're going to do better on, take that one. I told you it's a solution. Use your PSAT score and take a practice SAT. We will figure it out then. If you email me what your scores are for both, I'll tell you which path to take. If it's negligible, as I said, choose the preference you have. East Coast schools, like, so if you tell me you have a 1300 on the SAT and you have a 24 on the ACT, you want to submit the ACT. No, you're going to submit your SAT. It will know that by taking a practice test beforehand, and we know which one you're better suited for. So that should be the recommendation. That's what I recommend, and that's my opinion. So I know I'm pretty blunt. All right. You're welcome. Your presentation slides on the website. Yeah, I'll put all this in those those handouts that you liked. I will put that right with this presentation under it with a link for it, okay? So take a look. Again, CUSD-Futureology, let me get to it. We also have some checklists on our website, so take a look. So where's our website? CUSD-Futureology.org/locker. the resource locker or the tab that says resource locker, you'll be able to get this recording as well as some of the slide. You're welcome. You're welcome. Make sure I ask. All right, I have one more question here, and I want to make sure I get it. With helpful sources, emerging information pertaining to education. I wasn't sure. Oh, you wanted me to put the slides with some of that stuff. Okay, sounds good. As we wrap up, last questions. I think I covered pretty much everything in all your questions. Again, fantastic questions. I appreciate everybody participating. That's what makes this effective, asking so many poignant questions. Again, I made a lot of generalities out there. You might have a specific circumstances that might fall outside the window of this. Understand that you can reach out to us and kind of fill me in on some of the specific, or have an appointment with my counselors. Right now we're seeing juniors and seniors for one-on-ones. We'll have other appointments. You might see me at your school. Who knows? Say hi. Say, here's my situation. We want to help you. We want to help you make good decisions and informed decisions. Again, on this particular call, one of the biggest things you can walk away with, take the SAT or the ACT, not both. Okay, so thank you for your time. Everybody have a great night. And again, thanks for your participation.